more time of the speaker. I know people are really anxious about the special district. I think in California we have many special districts, and they play a really important role for us. Today we're very lucky to have the East Bay Park President, Beverly, here, and the Ceremon Valley Fire Protection District, Matt, and also the EDMOD board, Frank, here. And so let's do a brief introduction quick, and just a couple sentences. What's your name, where are you from? And then we can start the program. Okay, Julie, maybe you can start from you.
The short introduction?
Yeah, short introduction.
Okay. Hello everyone, I'm Julie. I'm the executive assistant of the APAPA Bay Area region. I just started getting involved with APAPA in August, so pretty new here and very young, like a baby too.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Go ahead. Amy?
I'm Amy Liu. Actually, I'm a lifetime member of APAPA Tri-Valley chapter. I'm very interested in all the activities going on with APAPA, and really, Amy has done a great job in organizing lots of leadership forum, and it was really nice. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Hi, my name is Nancy, APAPA TVC, I'm Vice President.
Hi, my name is Charles Liu, and I'm the APAPA East Bay board member. And also, I was just elected president of CBC, Citizen for a Better Community in Fremont. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Jun Do. I'm a APAPA life member, and I'm from Sonoma.
Hi, I'm Anthony A. from CLF Foundation. Anita Chang from Senator.
Hi, my name is Sophia Zhou. I'm a Chinese immigrant, and I've been in the Bay Area for almost 15 years. I'm a CEO of a small company in software for enterprise project management.
My name is Victor Zhang. I live in Dublin, and I'm a big fan of APAPA.
Hi, Nolan Chen. I'm a new board member here and also approaching 1 year resident of San Ramon.
And he's also a new dad. Hi, I'm Marcia Blanco. I am a longtime resident from Alamo, and also serving together with Andy Lee and a number of us, the Tri-Valley chapter, as a board member. And welcome everyone.
My name is Alice Wang. I'm a APAPA lifetime member.
Hi everyone, my name is Huilin Song. If you don't know my first name, you can think about Song, sing a song, everybody know that. I think this is the second year with APAPA and new board member. I certainly love the Civic Leadership Series I have been attending. This is really wonderful occasion for us to learn from all our senior members of the community. Thank you very much.
I'm Tu Yunshao, and I'm the reporter Chinese for this series.
Oh, that's you. Me? I don't know. I'm Min Lu, a friend of APAPA. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Lee, and I am a lifetime member of APAPA, and retired. I live in Danville, unincorporated. I was a former resident of San Ramon, now I'm a big fan of San Ramon.
Hi everyone, my name is Yuan Hui Wang, and I was introduced here by a friend of mine, Miss Jia Liu. I believe she will be here soon, and so very nice to be here. This is my first time to attend APAPA event.
Welcome and thank you again, everyone. And first, I'd like to let Anthony to come up speak a few words. You know, the whole event, we have this event every month. This is sponsored by CLF Foundation. So Anthony is the executive director of the foundation. So without their support, we will not be able to have this event. So thank you.
Thank you, AP. First of all, I want to thank you for all the speakers on a Friday evening. It's really a trooper for you to sacrifice all this appointment and come here and educate us about civic engagement in various aspects. On behalf of CLF Foundation, I want to welcome everyone. And like I said before, you probably get tired of my opening line. If you're not on the table, you're on the menu. But now I'm pushing a little bit because after one round of the country, they said just be on the table is not enough, because you're always reading a manual that's written by somebody else. So my wish is after you learn this, not just on the table, but how to write the manual, and so that we'll have a much better society. And last word is participate and get involved, so that you'll be an informed, registered voter. And by the way, any one of us here is citizen, but not yet registered yet. Anyone? I hope that everyone has registered. Okay. So make sure if you haven't done this and cast your vote before November 7th.
Thank you, Anthony. And here there's a survey for our program, and we will appreciate if you, after this today's meeting, if you have some feedback, you can leave to us. We would appreciate this. This will help us improve this program. So next, I'd like to talk a little bit about this program. You know, we have this every month. I think we have a few newcomers today, and we have this program every month. The goal of this program is to help the Asian Pacific Islanders to get engaged and participate, and know how the government runs, how the system works, and also build a connection. Also help those elected officials kind of bridge them with the API community. So without further ado, first I'd like to introduce the East Bay Park District Chair, Barry Lin, and she's the director of the East Bay Regional Park District, and now she is the president, and also she served at the Danville Town Council from 1980 to 1993. That's a long time ago. And she was the mayor of Danville for 3 times.
Wow.
And she was elected as the East Bay Regional Park District Board Director in 1994, right after that. And she has led efforts to establish the famous Iron Horse Trail, you know, the Sycamore Valley Open Space and the other project. And as a regional park director, she was focused on expanding and promoting the use of regional park and the trails in the East Bay. So I'm not sure you hike, we have very beautiful park and trails here. And also she's a local historian, and she wrote a book about the Ceremony Chronicle. So this year we celebrate 150 years of Ceremony Valley, so it's great to know. I mean, if you're interested, you can talk with her about that book. So without further ado, let's welcome Beverly Lin.
Thank you very much. Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm happy to see you. I'm happy you're not having to wear masks inside. I know all of us are watching the tragedy that's unfolding in the North Bay, and it's very hard for us to watch that and know the problems everyone is having. Well, I'm so glad that you are spending some time going through what is your local government. And in California, we are somewhat unusual because I think we have more special districts as a form of government than many of the other states. So you have talked to people on school districts, cities, county supervisors, and legislators. Go to Sacramento. And the other part of California government is the special districts. And special districts are set up as a rule to take care of one service. So tonight you're going to hear about East Bay Mud Water and fire protection and some others next time. BART is a special district. AC is a special district with buses. And there's resource conservation districts, and there's a whole variety of others. Now I'm on the East Bay Regional Park District board, and that special district is a pretty good sized district. It includes all of Alameda County and all of Contra Costa County. And what we do is we provide the major regional parks and trails and interpretation and take care of lakes and camping. So all of those larger opportunities to recreate and get out in nature are provided by the East Bay Regional Park District. Recently, we did an economic study on what are the benefits of, the economic benefits of having a regional park district in the East Bay, and we have a pamphlet that explains it. But I asked our staff to send a little email or a little video on that economic study, and so I'd like to ask Andy to run that right now. Called More Than Just a Pretty Place. Yes, why don't you do it now and then I'll finish.
The East Bay Regional Park District, 120,000 acres and 65 very different parks, is more than just a pretty place. It's an immense and irreplaceable economic asset to the people of Alameda and Contra Costa counties. Its economic values can be measured in dollars and cents. Lots of them.
We can talk about good health and sunshine and clouds and scenery, but when you put the numbers to it, the impact is tremendous in the East Bay. The parks do contribute economically to our community in some very important ways. If those parks weren't there, we would feel it.
According to a scientific report released in 2017, the East Bay Regional Park District is a powerful engine, generating economic values worth $500 million a year.
You've got 58 parks in San Ramon, along with East Bay Regional Parks, hiking trails all around this, plus this Iron Horse Trail. So all those quality of life issues, businesses want to come here because their employees want to live here.
For every dollar the Park District spends, it returns $4 in economic value to East Bay residents, businesses, and visitors.
In terms of competitiveness of our office park, it makes a tremendous difference to have resources for people to get out and walk, run, bike, sit. It just attracts the big name customers come out here and they see this is a very important thing that their employees can enjoy day to day.
Here are just a few specific ways East Bay Regional Parks benefit local businesses and the public at large. First, for good reason, people want to live close to their parks.
I've owned a real estate company for the last 34 years, and I can tell you that from my experiences, that when people can live near parks, it increases the value. So there's a direct nexus between being close to quality, well-maintained parks and the property values.
The presence of the parks adds $65 million to the region's property values.
The higher the property values, obviously the more tax receipts the city gets, the better the service is. So it's a virtuous circle where you have economic engines driving good parks then driving people to come and live here, which then drive good tax receipts. And so that virtuous circle creates that positive feedback loop.
All these things cost extra money in the beginning, but the dividends have really shown themselves in the long term, and the value of it's just tremendous.
East Bay Regional Parks provide recreational opportunities for everyone and for every interest, with an economic value of at least $200 million and supporting businesses of many kinds on the bottom line.
By having such expansive park systems in the Bay Area, we have cultivated businesses around them, restaurants and support that help people get into the parks. We've cultivated businesses in the Bay Area like REI that help outfit people for the parks.
Recreation in the parks also supports the health and well-being of millions of visitors, reducing healthcare costs by $20 million a year.
We see study after study that shows that time spent in the outdoors is healthy. This is going to lower health costs. This is going to increase your quality of life, to improve your physical fitness.
Healthy parks and healthy people go together, and doctors are now prescribing time in parks for their patients to get exercise, reduce stress, and combat a complex array of modern illnesses in this fast-paced, too often sedentary world of ours. And it's working.
Well, I think the concept of park prescriptions is a great concept. I think it's counterintuitive, but the solution to a very complicated problem that we're facing right now, both economically and health-wise, may actually be rest and play.
Finally, for now, the Park District's natural landscapes themselves are providing important and often overlooked public services worth $215 million every year. Its streams, wetlands, forests, and lightly grazed grasslands clean our water and our air, cool our temperatures, remove dangerous levels of carbon from the atmosphere, and protect us from fires and floods.
Mother Nature does it better than any one of us can.
Nature's many ecological services will become even more valuable economically as our climate heats up and sea levels rise in the 21st century.
It is the best investment. It is our investment to the future. The investment that we can the investment that we can do for the future generations.
In all these and many other ways, such as supporting local agricultural businesses, employing 1,000 full and part-time employees who participate in the local economy, and providing job training opportunities to young people throughout the community. The East Bay Regional Park District is much more than just a pretty place. It's an immense and irreplaceable economic asset for all of us and for the future.
So I'm very hopeful that the trends that we're seeing here in the Bay Area, people engaging in the parks, that's going to lead to that next generation that does value these and is willing to continue to invest in making these beautiful places. We have gone way beyond recreation, way beyond what I think our founding fathers of the Park District would have ever thought of. That we are really a fabric. We are the living fabric. We are the health net. We are the ability for maintaining a vibrant business community, attracting jobs, having a healthy place for people to live.
Thank you. We, since this quantifying the quality of life study came out earlier this year, it's been irresistible to show the video whenever I have an opportunity to speak, because those pictures are just beautiful, aren't they? So I do have several of the booklets here if anybody would like some more detailed information on how they came to those economic figures. But now I'm going to say that the Park District is a pretty good sized park district. We have about 122,000 acres and 73 parks. In addition, we have the large lakes and we run all of the regional trails. So we're an old district. We're a district that started in 1934 in the depths of the Depression in an effort to save the open space in the East Bay Hills. And in 1965, Contra Costa County joined Alameda County, and so now we do cover both, all of the East Bay. The challenges of running a large park district like this are many. We get a small portion of the property tax, which is our basic operations amount, and we have 700 or so full-time employees, and we add about 300 in the summer because that's our peak time to provide recreational services. In the Tri-Valley, of course, we have the Iron Horse Trail coming through. It goes down into Livermore now and extends up to Concord, and it's about 32 miles long. Very popular trail with people. And I think myself, I live in Danville, that the headquarters for people using that trail is Pete's Coffee. And right in the middle of downtown, it's about halfway, between the trail. And that trail does link up to various BART stations, so people can get on BART in other parts of the Bay Area and come and then use the trail if they'd like to. So we have, in the Tri-Valley, we have the Ironhurst Trail, Las Trampas Regional Wilderness, Sycamore Valley Open Space, Pleasanton Ridge, which is a quite enormous park. I think it's close to 9,000 acres now. And as we go into Pleasanton, Livermore, Shadow Cliffs is a very popular park which we manage. And then in Livermore, Lake Del Valle or Del Val. I always say Del Valle. I mean, if you're going to say San Jose, then you should say Del Val. Anyway, that's our largest park for camping, and every year it's a city, is what it is, and very popular. I went there about 10 days ago. So beautiful in the October dappled sunlight, and the lake is still up. And of course, we have other parks that you go a little further to see. One is Ardenwood in Fremont, which is very popular with people. Another is Black Diamond Mine in Antioch, and that is quite an extraordinary experience for people because you can go underground and have a tour of what a mine really was like. And it's not a Disneyland pretend. It's an actual place where there was mining. First coal in the 19th century and then silica in the 20th century. So there are quite a variety of parks that you can take advantage of, parks and trails. Of course, we do have our challenges, and one of the challenges is making sure that all the different users who want to use the parks and trails cooperate and take turns and obey the rules. And so when you're on a board, the way I am, you do get phone calls, and they will object to people with dogs on leash getting in their way on the trail. And they will say bicyclists should not be allowed inside the parks, and etc. So what we say is that we are a park here for all users, and urge people to cooperate and follow the rules. We put out a activity guide every 2 months, and I don't know if you notice this in your newspapers, in several newspapers, It's also available at the library, and you can go on our website at ebparks.org and learn about what is coming up in terms of things that are scheduled. I have a great nephew who's almost 7, and he and his grandmother and I are planning to go to Sonoma for the Cowboy Hootenanny a week from this Saturday. He's just the right age for it. And this is an opportunity for families to get into the parks, get acquainted with some of the history of the area, play some games, meet some naturalists, and have an all-around good time as we watch the darling little boy have a great time. We, as a park district, we follow an environmental ethic, and we feel very strongly that we need support efforts, both legislative and just in society, to have clean air, clean water, and encourage people to be healthy by going outside and having that experience outside in nature, and also get exercise so that they can have a long life and live a long life in a healthy state. So for me, it's been a real privilege to be on this board and to have a chance to set policy for the board. And I just would urge all of you to take advantage of it. And then finally, I do want to say that one of the things that is true for open space in the East Bay is that while we run the large East Bay Regional Park District open space, the water districts also have a lot of watershed themselves. So Frank can tell you about East Bay Mud and what they offer in terms of people's opportunity to hike and get out in the open air. And in Contra Costa County, the Contra Costa Water District manages the Los Vaqueros Reservoir, which is, I think it's almost 20,000 acres, and a wonderful opportunity for people to again take advantage of the open space. So I would say we're doubly blessed in the environment which we have, and I invite all of you to come out and take advantage of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. I think it's thank you, Barry, again. Here we have so many beautiful parks, and I'm the nature lover. I love to go to outdoors, and one of my goals is to bike along the Iron Horse Trail from the beginning to the end. And I already done that from Walmart and Ceremony to all the way to Whole Foods in Water Creek. That's so beautiful. I mean, I strongly encourage you either hike or bike there. Iron Horse is just so beautiful. So our next speaker is Frank Mellon, and he is the board member of the EBMAT, and he is the past president, just immediate past president of the EBMAT, and the EBMAT covers a lot of areas like like Castro Valley, Hayward, San Leandro, and just some part of Ceremony, not the whole part. So let's welcome Frank.
Good evening. So some of you folks that came in at the last minute or so, I've got sponges for you. So don't leave without getting your Friday night sponge. Beverly did a really super job of talking about special districts and how we are here in California, and each of us comes about in a different way. You're going to hear about the fire district in just a moment. In California, there's over 400 water agencies throughout this state. Now, some of them are little tiny things, like if you drive out on Norris Canyon Road, believe it or not, there's a little water district there. It's a cooperative, and these folks share a well. How many houses is it? Like 6 houses, 7 houses? That's a water district in this state. What makes the special districts so unique, and especially the way California is that we're dedicated to one thing. when you have a city like San Francisco, they've got water, they've got electricity, they've got all kinds of things. And so what happens is, like in the case of San Francisco, they make all this money off the water and they use it to pay for other stuff. East Bay Mud is a $2 billion a year organization. Now, we do water, we do wastewater, we do recycled water, we generate electricity to help pay for our water. So what we do is we focus on one thing and we try to do it really well, and that's water. In the, I think 1923 is when the East Bay Mud was formed, but in the near 100 years we've been in business, we've never had one layoff. Not one. We've done some, we've used attrition, we've used job sharing, although in those days they didn't call it job sharing, but that's what we did. And the reason for that is, again, this gets back to the special districts. You develop an institutional memory. When you're a city, and you have water, and you have wastewater, and you have all these other things, it's hard to figure out what institution you are. And that's what makes special districts so unique in their way. East Bay Mud's territory is divided into 7 wards. My ward, you start in San Leandro at 880, and you head due east to 680. That's the east and west boundaries. My southern boundary is unincorporated Hayward, and a few spots of incorporated Hayward, and there's a side story on that. And then San Leandro, Oakland, along the San Leandro border, using 680 as a boundary. Essentially, we extend all the way up to Hercules. We are following the bay, and our water resource, which we've been taking care of for a very long time, and if you want, there's a book you can read. It's kind of academic, which means it's boring. The name of the book is, its name was Mud. And what makes Mud different amongst the agencies is it stands for Municipal Utility District, which means we can get into all kinds of businesses. And when there was the energy crisis, we had a lot of people saying, why aren't you guys selling electricity? And the answer is kind of twofold. First of all, PG&E said, take us on, make our day. And we thought, oh, no, they're a lot bigger than we are. And secondly, our ratepayers, which is you folks, said, yeah, we trust you more than we trust PG&E, but we don't want you to spend any more money than you're doing right now. Well, the act of taking over PG&E's facilities would have been breathtaking. So we didn't do it. And there are those that are doing community aggregation, and for that, we say more power to them. We're staying with what we do best, and that's delivering water. So let's talk one more bit about what that means. We have over 4,000 miles of pipeline. So you start in Oakland, you drive to New York City, and then you drive back to Chicago. That's how much pipe we have to monitor. We have a number of dams. Some of you have used the recreation facilities at Chabot Park, which is actually an East Bay Mud dam. It's our oldest facility. It's been around over 150 years. And our partnership with East Bay Regional Parks is really quite unique. Beverly was all too kind to say about our watersheds things, but here in the East Bay, we contract with regional parks to run our watershed areas in terms of park facilities. And it's been a great partnership, if I do say so myself. But for those of you who like golf, not only does East Bay Regional Parks have some great golf courses, but East Bay Mud, through East Bay Regional Parks, has one called Redwood Canyon. It used to be called Willow Park. And it's a great golf course for one big reason. There's no cell phone service. You can go out there and never be bothered by anybody. And if you don't golf, that's okay. There's no cell phone service at the bar either, or the restaurant. So, but it's a great relationship. We have miles and miles. Our water comes from the McCollum River. And for those of you who know California really well, it's up by Valley Springs. Highway 12, Highway 26. Where they join is Valley Springs, and then just off the road a little bit is where our Pardee Dam is, but also Comanche Dam. Our big issue is always, where's the water going to come from? It ain't free, folks. It takes a lot of money to maintain the pipes and pay for 2,000 employees. And when we had a drought, the water was so low at Comanche Lake that you could see the original foundations of the town of Comanche. Our term of office is 4 years. And I often get people saying, well, oh, you're speaking, so that means you're up for election. Not until next year, folks. So now you're going to need candidates. And actually, I've been on the board as long as Beverly has been on her board, 1994. The reason why I ran was because there were some folks that were going to give away the water, the drought supply. In my first 2 votes, when I got elected, first vote was to reassert our rights to our American River water supply. And secondly, to start something called the Dublin-San Ramon East Bay Municipal Utility District Joint Powers Authority for recycled water. Who knew 21 years later how incredibly important both of those votes would be? So we do a lot of recycled water to help folks out. And finally, I want to talk about our partnership with our fire protection agencies. They flush out the fire hydrants, which doesn't sound like a whole heck of a lot, but part of it, we're required by law to treat the water. And actually, you don't want to put your fish in the water because it's got stuffs in it that is okay for us, but bad for the fish. It's got chloramine in it. And so you have to in the old days you used to just let your water air out because it had chlorine in it, but chloramine is a little different. So when the fire protection district is flushing water down the drain or down the street, and you're wondering, God, they're wasting water. No, they're doing everybody a favor. First of all, they're making sure the fire hydrants work. And second, they're helping us flush the system out. And the one thing that most people don't realize, there are parts of this country where fire protection agencies have to pay the water agency for the water they use to fight fires. That's not, we get our revenue from 2 sources. One, we get some property tax money, and the other we get is your ratepayer money. So the property tax money pays for the fire protection districts. So they never, ever have a bill to pay us except for their fire stations, as Matt and I were just talking about. But I also want to give you one last thought about how people conserve water. When I was first elected, our standard water demand was about 192 million gallons of water per day. People have been conserving water, been using the recycled water so much that about 10 years ago we realized we weren't getting as much money as we thought we would be budgeting for. And that's because water demand had been progressively dropping to the point where it was about 165 million gallons of water per day. Now, I want you to pay attention to that number for a moment, because way back then when it was 192 million gallons, our population served was 1.1 million ratepayers. Our population served now is almost 1.4 million ratepayers. And because of the drought, the water demand has dropped all the way down to about 150 million gallons of water per day. It did drop as low as 132 million gallons of water per day. And then it rained. Oh my Lord, did it rain this year. Anyway, the thing that I think is important for you to understand is that the special districts are an integral part of all that we live with. And we're probably all the unsung heroes. The thing that I always tell people is when I look at a ballot with my name on it, if there was a dog catcher on the ballot, that would still be above me. I'm the last living, breathing thing you vote for, before you vote for the propositions. Even the fire district is above us. So, yeah, we're the folks that are in the background all the time, and you are the folks that get the benefit of our dedication. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Andy or Matt? All right. Thank you for your time.
We learned a lot. I didn't realize you pay here.
All about East Bay Mud.
Yeah, there's some handout there. Feel free to pick up one. And I think Frank, is a couple years ago, you must be solicited by many of the journalists and people to talk about all these where's the water, how we conserve water, if we have enough water. Fortunately, in the past couple of years, we have enough water, right? Hope we don't have that problem anytime soon. We may, that's the nature. Next, I'd like to invite Matt to talk about the Central Fire District. And Frank was in the past 2 years ago was a focus. Now Matt is back in this week. You guys, everyone, to ask you a question, talk about all these fires. I think Matt will talk about the fire a little bit first, and about the district, and then he will talk about to give us some update about the Napa Valley fire and how we can prepare to prevent disaster in the future. And Matt has been serving for the Central Valley Fire District for a while, and also he is the chair for the Pulse Point organization, which has a great program to save the people's lives. I think I don't want to let me talk about, maybe Matt can talk about that program. I think that's a very amazing program to save people's lives. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Andy for the invitation to speak. And it is Friday afternoon, but this is an important subject that we're all interested in, so I'm happy to be here and contribute. One of the disclaimers might be is that if there's any information that you may want in terms of additional information or clarification, you can go to our website, and it's the normal www.firedepartment.org. And all this information and lots more will be on the website. We're very interested in being very transparent to the citizens that we serve. So you can keep me honest. In case I say something goofy, just look it up. First of all, I serve on the board of directors. It's an elected position, as Frank was just talking about. I serve with 4 other colleagues. We're elected for 4-year terms. I'm not running for anything until 2020. And quite frankly, I may be running for the hills, who knows? Long way away. But the things that I kind of want to talk about today are the district itself. We want to talk about the community outreach program, what you can do. Andy mentioned, give me some information on what we as citizens can do to help ourselves. So I'm here to address that. I want to talk about the CERT program. I want to talk about hands-only CPR. I want to talk about Pulse Point. And I want to talk about volunteer opportunities. If any of you are inclined to want to volunteer for various programs, we do have an outreach program for that. So the first thing is to talk about the district. And I think the first question is anybody seen the San Ramon fire truck running down the street lately? Anybody seen the San Ramon City fire trucks? You did? It's a trick question.
I don't know if that's San Ramon fire truck or some other city's fire truck. I think
no, it's a trick question because the reality of the fact that the district is a special district, so we cover a specific area. We're not the San Ramon Fire Department, we're not the Danville Fire Department, we're not the Alamo Fire Department. We are the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District. So I was trying to get you to understand and grasp the concept of we cross party lines, San Ramon, Danville, whatever. We also know that fire doesn't stop at the city limits, so it's an opportunity to be able to provide all the service for the citizens that we serve. The fire department Our department covers 155 square miles, and that includes the city of San Ramon, the town of Danville, Alamo, out into the east side for Marsh Creek area. So it has a very diverse types of fire and medical responses that we have to respond to. So in order to do that, we have 10 fire stations, 9 of which have paid employees, and then we do have a volunteer station out on Marsh Creek Road. Marsh Creek Road is very difficult to get to. We have to leave the county. So to get to Marsh Creek Road, we got to go into Contra Costa County and then back into, we have to go into Alameda County and then back into Contra Costa County. So having a volunteer group out there helps quite a bit to mitigate some of the circumstances before we can get full manpower there. Now, the other interesting statistic might be is what percent of calls or fire calls, hazardous materials, maybe a rescue, and how many might be medical calls, because we're a fire service that responds to all rural. So if you're calculating in your head, the real answer is 85% of our calls are medical. And so we are a transport agency, which means not only do we have the fire truck, but we respond with the ambulance as well. A side note, if you're a citizen in the San Ramon Valley, your services will be covered for ambulance transportation, for anything above what the insurance companies will reimburse. So if the bill is $500 and your insurance company covers $50, the insurance company will send them a bill for the $50 and the rest of it is gratis. Just something to remember. So the other things that we do besides fire and medical, we'll do hazardous material mitigation, and we'll also do technical rescues. So if you are a victim up on Mount Diablo, falling off a cliff, tripping, doing something that causes you a medical issue, we will respond to that. And so I think all services that needed for a disaster type thing are provided by our department, and we're also internationally recognized as a internationally recognized organization. So we went and did a lot of work to make sure that we meet the standards for that recognition. And I think that's bodes well for you, the citizen whom we serve. Now, the other thing I think is maybe of interest is the fact that we're financially solvent. I know that you can pick up the paper and read that maybe some of the organizations that provide fire safety aren't well financed, have problems with keeping stations open, have manpower shortage. There's a lot of that going on. Feel assured that the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District is financially solvent. We're in a positive situation. We're not in debt to the sense that we have more debt than we have revenue, and that you're in good shape. We also are a heart safe community, which means that if you're going to have a heart attack, you might as well have it here. I don't recommend that. Not part of the recommendation for this evening. But what that means is in general, if there is a non-hospital cardiac arrest, you have about a 50% chance of a positive outcome. Nationwide, that's huge. Generally, the numbers are maybe 20 to 30% tops, but on average, maybe about 10 or 15% for a positive outcome. So we do that through a lot of initiatives that provide life-saving techniques, as well as citizen responders to help. And with that combination, we're able to bring up the statistics to a really favorable place. So feel free to be proud of your organization, because it really does serve the citizens very well. So now I didn't bring a fancy video. I'm old school here. So here's what we're going to do. First thing is one of the brochures we're going to talk about here is the community outreach program. So there's more or less one for everybody here who was interested in it. This is a brief brochure that gives all the different programs that are available to get involved with in the Valley through our department. Some of the examples might be CPR training, CERT training, community fire extinguisher training. I mean, that's important, come on. And so for those that are interested, feel free to pick one up. I see some are being passed around. That will give you kind of a starting point. Again, you can go to our website. All this information is available. Now to kind of take the question of what can we do as citizens to protect our homes, put together this little brochure called Ready, Set, Go. In essence, what it describes is what you should do as a homeowner to keep the vegetation under control around your home and some of the things to think about in terms of a defensible property, right? So that you can cut down the risk for having a fire jump from somebody else's house to your house. And I think, in essence, what it's saying is 100 feet from your house, you should have a clear area. You should have any kind of local grasses, weeds, if you will. I call them weeds. The brochure is nice and calls it grasses. Those should be removed, and anything that's flammable that's not fire resistant should be noticed and removed from your properties. So the other thing that we have is, make sure I'm on track here. The other thing that we have is the CERT program, which is the Community Emergency Response Team. Now, does anybody know of CERT, heard of CERT, have taken the CERT classes? No.
Should we?
You should. Okay, so yeah, let's put it in perspective. The earthquake hits tomorrow. In what I call the basic urban area here, we have 44 first responders on duty. Okay, now if you do the math, you have 155 square miles, and you have 44 first responders, and you have an earthquake. Doesn't sound good. So what's going to happen is that the first responders are going to orient towards a prioritization system. And it might not be your 911 call. And so you, as a citizen, should prepare yourself to help you, your family, and your neighbors to get through the first 4 or 5 days of an earthquake. And that's what the CERT class trains you for. And it's a volunteer program. It's held at the fire district, which is at the corner of Bollinger and Crow Canyon. I know that doesn't make sense because who knew that they crossed? It's a program where you can learn basic skills and learn basic procedures on how to help your neighborhood get through an earthquake or a natural disaster. And I think it's very important because, again, just remember, 44 first responders, 155 square miles. So it's very important that we get as many people involved in how to supplement the emergency services, how to survive in an earthquake, what you need to do to make the next first 4 or 5 days palatable one and safe and sound for you and your family too. So that's something to consider. I do have a list over here. And on the website, there's classes that are listed, and they go up to 2017, but we'll have the next set on the website shortly, so you can plan for the class. So the other thing that's of interest is a couple things. Hands-only CPR. How many people know CPR? Long time ago. Yeah, one time ago on a planet far, far away, yeah. Okay, so how many realize that nowadays you do not have to use breathing techniques on CPR? Okay, all right. So that takes the ickiness out of it, then you might be more willing to do that. So the trick is here, all you have to do, we're going to have a CPR training class right here. It's 100 compressions a minute in the center of your chest. Put enough pressure on it to make the chest go in 2 inches using the palm of your hands interlocked. So that's CPR nowadays. The reason why you don't have to breathe into the victim is that there's enough oxygen in the blood for the first half hour, give or take, to supplement them. If you're on Mount Diablo and it's going to be 2 hours, that might be different. You might have to get to know the victim a little closer than you thought. But so I think hands-only CPR is really a new technique that's been approved by the American Heart Association. And again, I think it's something that the citizens can do to a cardiac arrest victim that will save a life. When you're in cardiac arrest, you have 10 minutes. If you, let's take an example. If you have no breath, no oxygen going through your system at 8 minutes, you might live, but your outcome might not be as good as the person that gets CPR 2 minutes into the process and has that oxygen flowing into the brain that will keep them alive and a whole lot better outcome. So that really makes a big difference. Second to last, I want to talk about Pulse Point. Now, Pulse Point was developed here in the district, and it's a smartphone app. How many have smartphones? Everyone. Right? Okay. I knew I'd get somebody that raised it. Anyway, it's a smartphone app that will alert you if there's a cardiac arrest call that's been called into the 911 dispatch system and you're nearby in a public place. For example, if there was a cardiac arrest victim out here in the driveway, we probably wouldn't see it. So we'd be unaware that it was going on. But our smartphones would alert us that there's a cardiac arrest victim nearby, and we could go out and start CPR. We could check and see if, in fact, there's an AED on the wall or somewhere located in the restaurant here. And some of you folks could go do CPR, and the other folks get the AED and apply it. So it's really a great idea. It's a free app. It's in a nonprofit foundation called Pulse Point, PULSEPOINT. Pulsepoint.org is the website. And if you would download that and save a life, that would make my Friday night worthwhile. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Now, some of you folks say, what can I do? Well, we have some volunteer places that we can use more people. One of the things that we do is we teach every 7th grader in the San Ramon Valley School District CPR. But it takes time and people to hold those classes. As you recognize, there's a ton of 7th graders running around, and it's more than a couple people can do to keep up the process. So we need volunteers who are willing to teach CPR to 7th graders. That's one of the programs. We also have outreach at maybe fairs, street fairs, the Wind Festival, etc., where we teach CPR to the general public. And again, that takes volunteers to be instructors. And so those are just 2 examples of the things that the opportunities that are available for the volunteer position that, again, would help your community, and you could have the opportunity to save a life or be a person who taught a person how to save a life. Close enough. Yeah. So with that, there's a brief update on the fires. I tell you, the briefing I have is from 8 o'clock this morning, so I would say that this is out of date. But in essence, I can tell you that the fires are kind of consolidating, and so the names that you've been hearing on the TV the last 3 or 4 days are kind of going to be different. So, but the two main fires in Napa are the Tubbs Fire and the Alta Fire. And those, I think collectively in California, there's like 93,000 people that are in shelters. There's fires in Mendocino County, Butte County, Orange County, Fresno County, and maybe a few more that I missed. So when somebody says California's on fire, they're not kidding. It's really a devastating thing. I think that probably most of this is useless in the fact that 8-12 hours ago things changed rapidly. We are coming in tonight to a red flag night. What that means is there's high wind possibility, more than likely, and low humidity or low moisture content. The reason why these fires kind of get out of hand so quickly is because they're wind driven, and we have as a fire group really a tough opportunity on trying to control the embers and the direction of the fire and the ferociousness of the fire. So that's kind of the thing that really allowed this to get out of hand. We had high winds, no moisture, we had fire going in lots of different directions, and in multiple places around the state. Very hard to control. Now, at the end of the day, we'll have a kind of a briefing on what happened and why it did, but at the moment, all I can say is Mother Nature is not our friend today. It's really contributed to the problem. Now, the other thing you might say is, what are we doing? We San Ramon. So what we've done is we've sent 3 or 4 fire engines. We've sent crew members that have gone with those fire engines. We've sent a communications van, and we've sent dispatchers to run the communication van. And we've sent senior officers to act as management teams in there. Also, one of my colleagues on the board of directors is a veterinarian, and he's up, not sure what location he's at, but he's up managing the large animals that are, pardon me, large animals that have been affected by the fire. So we have a wide amount of contribution by your local folks. Now, the next thing that you're going to ask me is, who's paying for all this? Well, the good news, if there's good news, what it boils down to is the state of California reimburses you, the taxpayers, for the folks that we sent to the fire. And they also reimburse us for the overtime that we spent to get other people to come in and supplement the people that have left. So you, as a San Ramon, Danville, Dublin resident, won't be charged extra because of this disaster. And it comes through state funding. Now, as a state taxpayer, yeah, a couple bucks goes into that. We can't do anything about that. So rest assured that we're sending resources, we're contributing to the benefit of the groups up there, and it's not an economic burden for you and the citizens that we serve. And other than that, I think that's about the highlights for me. Is there any questions that we have to answer?
Thank you, Matt. And I think especially this year, we had a hurricane in Houston, then go to Miami, the whole Florida, and then Puerto Rico. Now the fire in the Napa Valley, and that's Solano County, and many other places. And also, everyone knows the earthquake is overdue in California. So hope we can get prepared. And currently we are working with the fire chief in San Valley Fire Protection District, and hopefully we can have some knowledge sharing and some training for CPR for earthquake preparedness, and also maybe we can coordinate with the chief and to have some third, either we join their third class or they can offer some class to us. And so next, I think it's time for the question and answers Q&A. So any questions? for any of those three? Right.
I actually have a question for each and every one of the speakers. Let me start with Frank. And I think earlier when we had our conversation, you said that the reservoirs that in your district are also generating power, right, from the hydro turbines. So are there, I heard that there might be new environmental regulations that make the water exiting, passing through the water turbines much more difficult or more expensive, or do you need to do some kind of treatment to that, or what? Have you heard of it? Well, that will probably increase your cost of power generation.
First of all, I haven't heard of the special regulations with regards to the discharge of the water, other than we're responsible to the Department of Water Resources, as well as Fish and Game. And so what we have as regulation is, are we supplying enough water for the fish? Are we supplying enough water for the irrigators downstream? And that becomes a real problem. And Jerry Brown's twin tunnels, now I am going to get political. Jerry Brown's twin tunnels would require that water comes from somewhere to flush out the delta. And that would mean more water releases. Now, with regards to treatment, you actually asked a very complex question. We are obliged by federal law to treat water. I can't tell you how many times I see emails saying, when are you going to take the fluoride out of the water? When are you going to take the chlorine out of the water? Well, the fluoride is because the state of California voted in fluoride. The chlorine, because it turned out to have some issues, we wound up going with chloramine. But we're required to do that treatment. And that's just a fact of life. And if you want an answer as to why, I'll give you two cities, Flint, Michigan, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Both of those cities have had serious water issues because of the way they handled their water. So our water is very heavily regulated, and while you see all about mud as the information, if you go to ebmud.com, you can actually see our water report as to what stuffs there is in the water. Fortunately for us, most of our water is mountain runoff, kind of like Hetch Hetchy, so we don't deal with who has done what in irrigation. You had other questions for the other speakers, I think.
Well, I'm going to let other people ask first. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Sophia, just speak loud.
Yeah, I can speak loud. I have a question about the relationship between the water districts and California water resources. How is there collaboration or part of it?
What did you ask? A good question.
Really? I really have no idea.
It's an unpleasant relationship. And it's an unpleasant relationship, and I'll cite specifically. Andy pointed out that I'm past president of East Bay Mud. I had the displeasure of becoming president of the board right as the drought was full force in effect. And as we were getting ready to draw from our water supply that we had so carefully voted for some 20 years prior, Jerry Brown, through the Department of Water Resources, decided that we weren't entitled to that water after all. And that put us in a heck of a spot because we had promised all of our water ratepayers that the most, because of our securing these water rights, that the most we would ask you to conserve is 15%. Now we were pretty nimble because they also did it to ag and everybody else. And so we found a whole mess of agricultural groups that weren't going to use their water. And California is the only place I have ever been in my life where the same horse can be sold twice. So what happens is you pay for the water rights, and if you don't use them, they get sold to somebody else. You know? And what happened to us is we had to go out and buy $55 million worth of water to live up to our promise to our ratepayers. So our relationship is very tenuous. We have to follow what they tell us, but we also find ourselves in a position where we're competing very heavily because of what is happening with water. And we don't like the idea of having folks tell us that we're not charging enough for the water. We don't like folks telling us that we haven't made you conserve enough. As water agencies go, we're middle price, but more importantly, we're one of the best water conservers going. So thank you for the question. Other questions for the other speakers? Don't leave them out. They're here on the hook too. Yes.
We do. So also a question for all of you. So Bethany, with the EPA, there's some a lot of changes with EPA. Does it affect the regional?
Well, one of the things that happens on the federal level right now is a lot of things get pronounced and not necessarily that many things get done. And so we can see that there would be issues in a couple of years with a Republican Congress and a Republican president if they got their act together. But currently, what has been promised by EPA in terms of grants, for example, which we do benefit from, is continuing as it has in the past. And one of the reasons that I talked about the fact that we do support clean air and clean water is that I think that those issues are something that all Americans feel very strongly about. And if they're going to make decisions which will lessen the purity of water and send us back to a place where our rivers used to get on fire before we had the EPA, then I don't think that the citizens are going to stand for it. There definitely are differences in philosophy in Washington that do affect what kind of grants we might get. And so we're just supporting things that are part of our environmental ethic and not trying to step out and become a Berkeley or anything like that, but we are supporting or opposing the fact that the president has withdrawn from climate change. It's been pretty difficult for everybody, I would say, who believes that government does have a function in the country right now. I did want to, I neglected to say that I am indeed an elected official, and as with Frank, there are 7 of us who are on the East Bay Regional Park District board in all of Alameda and Contra Costa County, and we each represent a geographic area. So I represent the county line here from San Ramon to Concord, and then Pleasant Hill to Clayton, and I go out to Marsh Creek Road. And one of the things that the Park District and myself in particular do is have a lot of partnerships. And so East Bay, our main mountain in the middle of Contra Costa County is a state park. It's Mount Diablo State Park. And it's in the middle of my ward. So I have a tremendous size ward, I will say. But that whole part in the middle of it is run by the state. And I have a good time with that. I try to keep track of how staffing is going with the state park and what is happening there. And then I found myself about 10 years ago when these huge feral pigs had come out of the state park and were digging up lawns at Blackhawk. People were calling me And I said, well, you know, I think those are state park pigs. Because you really can't do too much about those. It's the feral pigs anyway. So that's all I really have to say about that. And thank you so much for that tricky question.
So, two more questions actually for both Matt and Frank. So, what is the danger of fire in our area this year? And is there enough water to extinguish the fire?
Okay. I gotta go. Is that phone call for me? Just kidding. There is a high fire danger, and that's indicated publicly by the fact that we're in our area or under the red flag distinction at the moment. And what that really means is that if there is an event on the state park in Mount Diablo, if there's an event somewhere in one of our neighborhoods where there's open space and it's not properly been taken care of by having a defensible space, and there isn't, we as a department go around and inspect the open spaces that are in our jurisdiction, and we mitigate the problem with the landowner to get it taken care of. So quite frankly, I'm not worried about something that was a maintenance issue that hadn't been taken care of, because we get that done by June 1st. But there is always a problem with circumstances that we can't control. You might have some event that gets started at Camp Parks. You might have some event that gets started in Mount Diablo and transfers into our jurisdiction. We do have mutual aid with all the organizations around us, so we have plenty of resources to put on a fire or any other natural disaster in relationship to the event itself. So again, if there's an earthquake, it's going to be 4 or 5 days before things get settled out. We're going to have a lot of mutual aid, but the first couple of days are going to be rough. If we have a fire, we have mutual aid that we can bring in all around us, and we supply mutual aid to Camp Parks and to the state. So I think that anything can happen, yes. There are opportunities for something bad to happen, yes. But I think we're in reasonably good shape as a community because of the prevention methods that we've done prior to this point. But we have to always be vigilant in terms of a red flag day.
Thank you.
So you actually asked a couple of questions in one. First of all, water supply, we're in very good shape. And one of the things you can do, you go to eastbaymud.com and you can look up and see what our water supply is like. We maintain a daily and weekly report of where our water status is. However, Matt said something that I think is really important to talk about, and that's earthquakes. So about 10 years ago, you all remember Crow Canyon Road being dug up all the way across. That's because we had no redundancy in our system. So the water that was servicing this side of the hills was coming down from Walnut Creek. The water that was servicing Castro Valley was coming through the Claremont Tunnel. Yes, there is a Claremont water tunnel that was crossing the Hayward Fault and then coming down. So the reason why we dug up Crow Canyon Road was to provide redundancy in our system, because we did learn from the Kobe earthquake that their geology was such that they were not prepared for redundancy. So we've got that built in, and that means as you drive down Crow Canyon Road, there's actually some spots where we're crossing creeks and the like. Our system is designed that if that line breaks, we can have it up and running within 48 hours. We've got stations, we have connectors stationed all throughout our water district. Why is that important? Because these guys need water to fight fires. It's not the earthquake that is ultimately going to get you. And all we have to do is look to the Napa earthquake, which was only a few years ago. And And what was the biggest problem? Not the buildings that were falling down. God knows there was enough of those falling down. How bad were the fires, man? There were firefighters watched helplessly as a mobile home park just went up in smoke because there was no water. Yeah. So I want to say we, but really and truly, you all approved a huge project that we spent a lot of money on, $180 some odd million for seismic retrofitting. My favorite story on this is I got called one day by the workers, "Hey Frank, come on out to Golf Links Road. You won't believe what you're going to see." A steel pipe that when it had initially been laid was straight as an arrow. And it crossed the Hayward Fault. And when they were replacing it, it had this nice S shape to it. Because of the creep of the Hayward Fault. That pipe, because it was steel, didn't break. It bent. So, yeah, we're prepared, but I'm going to echo something Matt said. You have to be prepared. You should figure that you're going to need 3 to 4 gallons of water per day per person. And you know, having those cheap 99-cent 1 gallon water jugs from Safeway or Lucky's or whatever, you should have that. And bleach. A teaspoon of bleach goes a long way towards making your water safe during an earthquake event. Other questions for the items? Oh, please do.
To get back to your question, for the San Ramon residents, I don't know if you realize this, but we at the fire department now dispatch your police department. So what does that mean? That means that when you dial 911, you no longer go up to the sheriff and Martinez, and the sheriff has to understand what your problem is. Then they transfer that call back down here to do the dispatch. What happens now is when you dial 911, both on your cell phones, unless you're immediately on the freeway, or your landlines, that 911 call comes into the fire department right here in an undisclosed location, and it will dispatch both police officers and fire personnel at the same time. So we've had a lot of saves with medical calls because the PD folks got there a couple minutes early and were able to mitigate some of the medical issues until the fire department got there, and vice versa. When we have an issue where there's some unsavory people doing unsavory things, we have close communication now. So San Ramon Police Department and the fire department all commingled into one communication system, and it cuts down call processing time by at least a minute. Unbelievable.
Do you think you can teach us using a smartphone to download the emergency alert system?
The pulse point?
You see?
You want Nexus or? I'm not sure which one.
So if there's, let's say, earthquake or fire or whatever, then it can alert us on our phone.
Yeah, there's Nexus, I think, is probably maybe what you're talking about. Also, the city of San Ramon has a radio text message.
It's like Amber Alert.
Yeah,
I will receive the message. Yeah, I already somehow automatically send it.
Yeah, if it's on the Nexus system and the San Ramon system. And the Amber Alert. Yeah, there's multiple social media type programs that will do that for you. So it all depends on which one you want to sign up for. But
we have to sign up.
But Amber Alert, yeah, you have to put Amber Alert on your phone. You have to put Nexus on your phone. You have to do one of those things to register so that they'll feed you the information to your smartphone. So, yeah.
Actually, I have a couple questions, one for Beverly and one for you, Matt. Maybe I can ask you quick.
Might as well do me first, right?
So, tomorrow I check the weather. The wind is like more from the north. It's kind of will blow the smoke again to San Ramon Valley. It's today we have like a green now, is kind of light yellow. Maybe tomorrow it again go to orange or even red. It's going to be another question for Beverly is, I think most of the states have the city park, then the state park. California, we have the regional park. So how is this funded? So maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, I'll answer the first part. I suggest you go back to Monterey. Because it's going to be a lot better down there than it's going to be here for the next couple of days. So yes, if the wind's out of the north, it's going to blow back down here. That's the expectation. The next 24 to 48 hours will really make a difference on where we're going to be in terms of the amount of land that's being considered contained under the fire lines. So knock on wood, pray, whatever we do, that's comfortable, but have good thoughts that the next 24 to 48 hours that the winds will not be as radical as they're predicted to be, and that the firefighters continue to get a handle on the process, because that's going to make or break us for the next week or two.
Yes, he asked about how the regional park is funded, and our main source is the property tax. So everyone pays a dollar under assessed valuation, and we get 3 cents. So that's our main source of revenue. In addition, in 2008, voters voted a bond issue, which we call WW, which was $500 million. And that appears on your property tax as well. And we're committed to keeping it under a certain amount each year. So what we do is we sell bonds periodically, as we can spend them. And then, of course, there are fees that we sell, memberships we sell, and grants that we get both through the state and federal government, and from large private foundations, especially as we purchase new lands. So those are our main sources. And we are, unlike the water district, we are not an enterprise district, so we do not have the ability to charge each household. You get an East Bay mud bill, right? Or if you're in other parts of the Tri-Valley, you'll get a bill from your water district. But we don't send them, we don't have the ability to do that.
Yes. I have a practical question. So after the heavy rains on the East Bay Park, Woodland Park, and one of the trails, they had some cave-ins, and I was wondering what the process is and timeline for fixing things like that. So there was like an overpass over our gully, and that's all caved in where the bikes go across off Finley Road.
Off Finley, yes. Well, those rains really had their way with some of our parks and trails, I will say. Del Valle flooded 5 different times because our partnership is as a flood basin as well as water supply, and some of that heavy water just destroyed trails, and in the golf course that is now called Redwood Canyon, all of the golf cart bridges came loose from the moorings. So what we did was we worked after the rains, during the rains and after the rains, to have our rangers point out what damage we had, and we had to prioritize which things we would take care of first. So I don't know, is it Finley Road or Finley? Is it the trail?
Yeah, of course, East Bay Regional Park at the end of
at the end.
When you
Yeah, I don't know where that is in terms of being fixed. But some of them were so major that they're just not going to get fixed very soon. And for those of you who sometimes like to use the bridge out of Moraga and go up to Redwood Road, I understand that that bridge is supposed to be fixed.
About 2 years.
2 years, isn't there something temporary going in?
They're putting in a quick fix that will be a one-lane bridge, and that'll supposedly they're trying to beat the rains.
Yes, yeah, so they're talking about a temporary bridge there. And then at the other end of Redwood Road, there was a major slide, and I'm hoping that'll be fixed before the rains. But I don't know.
I was told by Alameda County Public Works that they're looking at spring now of next year.
Yeah.
So Redwood Road from Castro Valley, which would normally take you around to Moraga or Skyline, is closed.
Yeah. So what that means for us is our Lake Chabot campground, there's one way to get there. There's no longer three ways. So anyway, we really appreciate people's patience on it because so much happened with that rain. And some of them were very structural in these trails. Well, if you want to give me your name, I'll pursue where that is on the list.
Okay, maybe you can zoom in the last question. Go ahead. Since you are the follower, give it on.
I think, thank you that having a regular user of the Iron Horse Trail, so I have seen that the surface has been the trail been resurfaced in the last few years. So it's been very nice. And Mountain Diablo is the same. It's one of my favorite places to go to. I think for people, if you live in the area, for a while, and there's tremendous amount of growth in the area here. And certainly that put a lot of pressure on the water, on the available land. So my question is there where are we in terms of how much growth the area can support in terms of the our capacity? Where are we approaching that limit, or are we still have quite some room to grow?
Are you talking about having adequate water as population
The waters
grows, or
the
parklands?
The lanes for the additional highways, roads, all for development, and the fire supporting the area. Are we squeezing those and the park lanes out of the area, or
in schools? Takes a while to build a school.
And then if you take the Tri Valley area, it grows tremendously in the last 10 years.
Well, one of the things that happens when you have special districts is they focus on different things. For instance, school district, you had schools come and speak to you, and they are financed separately, and they do their school planning separately. And some people feel like you should have a government that where you elect, for instance, in some cities back east, they run the schools, they run the water, they run sewer, and they run fire. And what that means is that one group of elected officials has to make judgments on how many resources go into each of those government services. And there are pros and cons in how you approach that. For us, and with a focus on open space and alternate transportation with regional trails, we have a master plan that we follow, that we are working to have more open space as we have more population, and lengthen the trails and be successful in having parts of trails get together, because we have some trails that stop at a certain point, and you can see maybe a mile away that another trail is waiting to be linked. So it's constant work on that. And from my point of view, from the parks, we will always have an emphasis on parks here in the East Bay because you have the East Bay Regional Park District. If we were split up and we were part of Alameda County and they ran parks, the large parks, or Contra Costa ran the large parks, I don't believe there'd be as many resources going into parks because they have so many other competing interests.
When the growth comes and continues to come, we'll build a new firehouse or hire a new fire. I have the easier answer out of these folks because we're able to develop resources on a shorter time frame than water parks and schools. And some of my colleagues on the school board, we talk about how you have to plan for a school because you've got to start planning 5-6 years out, and the population's changing so quickly that it's very difficult to keep the planning stage current with what's happening in the area. So they really have it tough.
Well, sometimes you're not the speed of light.
Well, that's right.
Seeing how Andy is hovering, I'm going to try to make this as brief as I can because I can see you're hovering at 9 o'clock. So you go to the East Bay website and you'll see our water supply management plan to 2040. But what we're doing is we take a large amount of data as we come up with these plans. And most people don't realize this, but population, while it's growing in California, as a nation, we're holding our own. We're barely replacing ourselves. If it wasn't for the immigrants, we would be in a negative population growth, much like Japan, much like Germany, much like other parts of the world, even China. China had to reverse its policy because suddenly they realized they're going to have all these old people and no young people to replace them. You know? So what I'm saying is that our plans are not only on what we anticipate the population growth to be, but also what we anticipate our water conservation and our water substitute, meaning recycled water, would generate. And I'll close with a thought about San Diego. San Diego realized it could no longer depend upon metropolitan water for its water supply as well as they would have liked. So they embarked on 2 courses. First course was desalination. And during the drought, desalination provided 15% of their water. The second course was to develop recycling. Now hang on to your hats, folks. Toilet to tap. So what they're actually doing, they have approval because we treat our wastewater 3 times. They treat their wastewater now 5 times. And I have been to their wastewater plant where they've done that treatment, and I have drunk the water. And you know what's wrong with that water? It has no taste. It has no taste. It's really something. The water is fine. You don't have to hold your nose and sleep on it. But it has no taste. That recycled water, they've recently got approval to go directly to the tap. And the people in San Diego have said, hey, it's water. So, on that note, Andy, thank you so much for allowing the 3 of us to talk.
Thank you again. Those Beverly, Matt, and Frank, thank you so much, and thank you for all the audience. So let's come to the front, have a group photo, and then you still have time. I think they will still stay here a little longer. Ask them a question, maybe ask their business cards, so that in the future get contact with them.
What do you give their sponge?
Okay, come to the front. Let's have a group photo. Thank you.